Action Theologian presents Closer to Jesus Than Superman, because Jesus is a brown guy from outer space. Our first candidate who is closer to Jesus than Superman is a spiritual leader, a cultural hero, and a king of both the living and the dead. That's right, it's T'Challa, king of Wakanda, the Black Panther. T'Challa is the creation of Jack the King Kirby and Stan the Man Lee. The story goes is that Kirby saw there was a significant part of the public that could be marketed to, one that did not have many heroes to identify with. Black Panther soon came into being, the name taken from the political organisation of the same name. It was pressed to change the name to Black Leopard or Cold Tiger, which fortunately did not stick. Black Panther and the nation of Wakanda were introduced in Fantastic Four, number 52, in July 1966. In this comic, T'Challa roughs up the entire Fantastic Four, subduing each member. Unlike Namor the Submariner, T'Challa's time as an antagonist of the Fantastic Four pretty much ended with this story. The Black Panther was a hit. He joined the Avengers in 1968, eventually getting solo adventures, starting with Jungle Action number 5 in 1973. Black Panther was noticed by many, those who liked T'Challa and those who did not. Those who did not made their disapproval well known. There is a tale that a group of these misaligned gentlemen sought out Jack Kirby at the Marvel offices. Jack, hearing that these people were in the lobby, told them to wait for him. Jack's tone was quite obvious that physical conflict was more than possible. By the time Jack got down to the lobby, these gentlemen were long gone. So, yes, Jack Kirby was ready to throw down with a group of racists by himself over the existence of T'Challa. T'Challa is descended from a long line of priest kings. His position is the leadership of his nation, its people, and as a physical representation of the panther god Bast. Jesus is king and priest in the line of Melchizedek. Jesus is priest with himself, the offering, once and for all time, for the forgiveness of sins. There has been many a tale where T'Challa stands before Bast not just for his coronation, but for insight to aid the people of Wakanda. Recently, T'Challa added an extra title to his list, King of the Dead. In Hickman's Secret Wars, zombies heed his call and obey him, which makes me wonder, will this work on vampires too? Jesus, as the Easter narrative tells us, dies and is resurrected 3 days later. The apocryphal tale, The Harrowing of Hell, has Jesus enter the gates of hell and release those imprisoned. Theologian Hans Urs von Balthasar's vision of Jesus in the fullness of his humanity in the place of the dead in solidarity with all of us is amazing. The Son of God in the place of the dead. Does that make Jesus king of the living and the dead? Representation is big when it comes to T'Challa and the fictional African nation of Wakanda. Wakanda is incredibly advanced. They have the cure for cancer. In Marvel Comics, only Latveria, Atlantis, and the inhuman city of Attilan are as technologically advanced as Wakanda. This is a subversion of the stereotype where Africa is a continent of poverty, famine, and civil war. Representation like Wakanda has been brought about through the imagination of people like Jack Kirby. Imagination that inspires others to see and bring about that which does not currently exist. Such representation that inspires us to bring about change is the very definition of hope. Representation is a big part of the gospel narratives. With Jesus, the word we need is Emmanuel. John 3:16 is great framing of Jesus' representation, but Emmanuel describes the relational aspect. Emmanuel means God with us. Earlier in the Gospel of John, we get Jesus' origin story. The biblical scholars tell us that this description of Jesus coming to dwell with us, living alongside us, pitching camp with us. This imagery of Emmanuel, of God with us, is not God fights for us. The Gospels, especially John, emphasize the incarnation of Jesus. Christian belief is adamant that Jesus is both human and divine, that Jesus ascending into the presence of God places a human being, one of us, seated at the right hand of God the Father. To put it in a simpler form, God takes on humanity so that through the incarnation, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, humanity can acquire divinity, to become children of God. T'Challa takes on the mantle of the Black Panther, a representation not just of the people of Wakanda as any king would be, but also as a priestly conduit for Bast the Panther God. But T'Challa's representation does not stop in the Marvel fictional universe. When Black Panther the movie was released, it was enthusiastically embraced by the African American community. It is no surprise that Black Panther is the highest rated Marvel movie on Rotten Tomatoes. On screen, young boys and girls, men and women saw, for some the first time, not just T'Challa. They saw the Dora Milaje, Shuri, Okoye, Ayo, Nakia, Queen Ramonda, M'Baku, Wakabi, the imagination of Jack Kirby on the big screen writ large, instilling the hope that they too can be heroes. Core to biblical narrative is that all of humanity is equal. In the image of God, we are all made. Genesis flies in the face of the creation narratives of the nations surrounding Israel. Loki in the first Avengers movie directly refers to this same narrative, that some are made to rule, while others are always meant to be ruled. In the Black Panther movie, the conflict between Killmonger and T'Challa is that same conflict. Wakanda is better, more powerful. Of course, they should amend oppression worldwide. While Killmonger seeks to solve that problem through power, T'Challa wants to open up the nation and do more than just repeat colonial oppression. Jesus has a similar choice in the triumphal entry. While many in Jerusalem expected Jesus to march on the Roman garrison, he did not. Jesus goes to the temple and confronts the religious issues of temple access and money changing. To bring about hope and change, someone has to image it before we can take that gospel and run with it. When we see those Instagram, TikTok and YouTube videos of those kids dressed as T'Challa, Okoye, Ayo, Shuri and M'Baku, you get that little tear in your eye. I know I do. Because something is being unchained. A different narrative is being written. In this there is power to give life, hope, and the realization that only a brave imagination can convey. Kirby was willing to throw hands for T'Challa. In the face of this onslaught of hate that asserts one group is assured power while the other's destiny is slavery, we should be supporting more of T'Challa. Yet it appears with the death of Chadwick Boseman, recasting is not an option. Batman, James Bond, even Jesus gets recast. Why? Because the narrative is bigger than one actor. Without retelling across generations, there is no way that Christianity would be as big as it is. While T'Challa is not Jesus, there is an importance in the representation this character should continue. Jesus and T'Challa are king and priest. They both represent a culture and try to shape it as best they can. While not being divine, T'Challa has connections to divine beings and has also become king of the dead. Without imagination to inspire representation, neither Jesus or T'Challa would exist. Emmanuel, God with us, one of us, has parallels in T'Challa and the nation of Wakanda. Like the gospel of Christ, such an image disturbs the comfortable and comforts the disturbed. As a believer who has studied theology, there is a great need to uplift the outcast, the widow, the poor, the orphan. It is why love God, love your neighbour as yourself is followed by the parable of the Good Samaritan, and why the Genesis narrative asserts that all are made in the image of God and not just those from a certain tribe, nation, or skin colour. The subversion of Wakanda is delightful, and to see it in cinemas worldwide is glorious. But without T'Challa, it's like the church without Jesus. In fact, it's like a church without Judaism. The roots of Wakanda come about due to the hero, the protagonist. Without the hero, there is no narrative. In the same way, a Christianity that struggles to notice Jesus and the disciples as Jews will struggle to live out the narrative that begins in Genesis and ends in Revelation with the heavenly city of Jerusalem open for all to see the glory of God. King, priest, hero, representative for millions worldwide. For these reasons, T'Challa is closer to Jesus than Superman. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. If you have any other selections for characters who could be closer to Jesus than Superman, please add them in the comments. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless.